Welcome back, animators. Today we're going to be working on part 2 of our walk cycle, and this one will take us from in-betweens to the final line art. Of course, just as in part 1, we're working from the reference images from the Animator Survival Kit by Richard Williams. So let's get started by laying in our in-betweens. What we want to do, of course, is to put in a new drawing in between each of the key poses, the 8 drawings that we did in the last session. And you can see that I'm animating at 24 frames per second, which means that if I put 3 frames in between, that will allow me to put a single drawing spaced evenly between the 2 key poses, and also allowing me to animate on 2s, so I don't have to do quite as many drawings. And the procedure here is really just the same as before. And you probably recognize that this footage is sped up considerably. I don't draw that fast, nor would I expect you to be able to draw that fast. I would imagine the professional animators could probably draw at this particular speed, but for me, I still have to take my time, and I imagine you do as well. But it's the same procedure, and we keep onion skin on so that we can have good spacing in between each of the 2 key poses, and you'll see me flipping back and forth between those quite a lot. I'm going to shade in the left side just for my reference, and also so it matches the other key poses. And really, right now, it's just a matter of working your way through from one in between to the next, trying as best as possible to keep the lines consistent and the shapes in volume consistent, and just moving from one in between to the next. Now, as I'm working through this section, right, if you're paying close attention, you're probably going to notice a problem, which I didn't pick up on until a little bit later into my work process, and you'll see that later in this video as well. And I didn't want to edit that out because I want you to be able to see that, even when you're concentrating and trying to pay attention to all these things, there's something that can get by you. And then rather than throwing everything else out, you just identify the problem and try and fix it. So right now I'm just kind of going through the process of adding the in-betweens in with the appropriate shading, always going back and forth, flipping between the poses, just like a traditional animator who might flip pages. We can flip from pose to pose. On the walk cycle, unless there's a good reason for it, and remember, we're doing a really simple vanilla walk cycle here, a lot of the shapes are simply just going to be halfway in between the 2 poses, unless there is a particularly good reason for increased spacing due to, say, the arm swinging on the fast part of its arc. But because we have the key poses already laid in, the in-betweens themselves don't necessarily need to favor one drawing or the other. So right now it's usually going to be just fine to take those shapes and simply transfer the midpoint of the circle. Are you seeing it? Okay, if you're looking at that lower left arm, you're probably seeing it right now. Right, and if you're paying attention, you could anticipate what's going to happen next. Well, there it is. Just for your reference, in case you were curious, this footage is right now sped up at 400%. So in terms of real time, this is taking me 4 times as long as what you're seeing here. And I don't really think that that's an average. I think I'm a pretty slow drawer in terms of doing sketches like this. I just take my time. Nothing wrong with that. So you see what's great about the onion skin here is you can definitely see where the shapes need to go. And you can actually see me making a decision here about the foot placement, how high it needs to go off the ground. And we're just about at the end of this phase. So like I've been setting you up for, we'll fix the problem next. Adjusting the spacing. So every time I finish, and you can see all the in-betweens are laid in there, I like to go back and check and then just kind of watch the animation at speed. You can see it right there, right there, right there. You see the little hitch in the arm. Yeah. So it's so, see how it just doesn't move. The arm swings through and then gets stuck right there, stuck in place. And and that's when, as an artist, you have to make a decision. Do you want to just say, "Oh, that's just really good spacing," or it's a character quirk? And usually, when you start making decisions like that, it's just coming out of a place of laziness and frustration. The other thing that sometimes happens is you just then scrap it all, you delete the file and start over. Uh, uh, there's no time for that. There's no need for that. So you just want to zero in on which ones are the problem frames. And if you were having your work follow mine really, really closely, then your animation at this point has the exact same problem. So you're going to want to fix it. And we fix it just by having the courage to delete the work that we've done before. That's one of the great things about working digitally. Why not take advantage of it? Okay. And you can see I'm trying to make decisions about what do I want to see in terms of the onion skin. Do I want to see the previous frame and the frame that follows? Because it's getting the image, as you can see right there, is getting really cluttered on the screen. Right? And I think I settled on just turning onion skin off altogether, and then go through and fix it. So now what you can do, once you have all the in-betweens together the way that you like them, then you can proceed to finalizing your line art. I like to draw in terms of my line art in finished shapes so that it makes the coloring in that happens later on a lot easier. And I like to do the torso and the head first. And we're not doing a whole lot of overlapping action in this particular vanilla walk cycle. We don't want to overcomplicate things, especially if this is your first walk cycle that you've ever done. We're just going to keep it simple, although I think at some point I do put a little, there it is, I put some, a little bit of secondary action on the hair, and I think eventually on the zipper on the hoodie, just for a little bit of fun. Okay, you don't have to do that in your work if you're just trying to get the walk cycle down. For me, it was just a matter of a little bit of creative interest. If we were doing a little bit more advanced work, of course we would have the the head and the chin drag a little bit in terms of overlapping action. We might even put some action on the hood itself. Certainly the torso should be rotating in all 3 axes rather than just moving up and down. But for the sake of simplicity of this tutorial, we're just kind of going just with the up and down motion. It's still, at its core, it's a bouncing ball. The head, top of the shoulders, and the hips. Okay, so as long as we've got all of those poses, and remember, I'm drawing over not only the key pose, but also all of the in-betweens that we just got done. Moving on now to the legs. I spared you the initial drawing as I was trying to figure out what this character looks like. It took me a little while, but you can kind of see I got the one leg pose in there. And now it's just a matter of repetition and, keeping the design consistent. So he's got these kind of sweat pants kind of things and very simplified Converse sneakers. So I just have to make sure that the drawings of the shoes stay consistent, that the amount that the cloth, sticks to his frame, that stays consistent as I go from drawing to drawing. It's hard to imagine some of the traditional animators doing all of these drawings by hand, thousands and thousands and thousands of them. Then you're not so surprised how well they can just draw right off the cuff. They're just getting tons and tons of practice. And this is another situation where I'm really glad I took the extra time to color in the backside so that I never had to get confused when I'm doing my line art. And this footage as well is sped up to 400%. So no, I don't draw this fast. No, my hand is not actually this steady. And we're just about finished because then it's just really a matter of doing all of the rest of the drawings. Now we're in the final phase, putting in the arms, keeping the design here really simple. Just got a kind of a cuff at the end of the sweatshirt arms, and I'm going with kind of a mitten hand. I just thought for the sake of this tutorial, going through and drawing fingers endlessly would just kind of be a waste of time. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not very good at it in terms of drawing them quickly and efficiently. I have to take a lot of time drawing those. So I'm just going to keep it nice and simple. It's up to you what you would want to do. I do encourage you to try at least get some kind of hand in there because as you can see the joint at the wrist does break, meaning that the hand has to drag at certain points, right? It's turned backwards at some points and then drags behind as it's swinging from forward to back. And you don't get that if you don't actually put some kind of hand in there. I don't think fingers are necessary for this vanilla walk, but a hand and a thumb, that's certainly plenty. Trying to keep the hand shape in terms of volume consistent it's a good challenge, and I'm not always as successful as I might be, but I try my best. And then, just as usual, make sure you erase all the parts that would be hidden. If you're working in other programs such as Adobe Animate that deals in symbols, this kind of work is definitely sped up by what those programs can do. But drawing in this method that imitates traditional animation is definitely good to help improve your line art and improve your drawing skills and just uh, what it does allow you to do that, say, symbols have a harder time with is you can certainly fudge things in terms of a silhouette when you're drawing like this, as opposed to with symbols, you're stuck. So it makes symbols make volume consistency easier, but they don't have as much wiggle room, in my opinion. And this is just fun. Okay, and you can tell that like even here, I'm still fiddling with that arm swing. Um, I'm doing damage control from earlier mistakes in my sketches. That okay, and maybe there's a lesson to be learned there. Yeah, that hand was too small. What were you thinking? Um, in terms of really getting your sketches right, because if you let mistakes linger in your animation, they definitely have a way of sticking around in an annoying fashion. So yeah, it's really just a matter of going from drawing to drawing, checking out the timing, see how it looks. There you go. You have a walk cycle.